hoping you remember who I am. For those of you who don't know me or can't remember my name's Lucy Newton, and I work for Ruislip Baptist Church as their children's worker. And normally I'd be coming into your school and standing in your hall to take an assembly, sometimes on my own, sometimes with friends. But I'm not there today. As you can see, I'm sat outside on a very warm and sunny day and imagining you all sat in front of me waiting to hear what story I've got to tell today. Who can tell me what season it is at the moment? That's right, it's autumn. Now, it definitely doesn't feel like autumn today as I sit here on this hot sunny day. But when I look around the garden, I can see signs of autumn. I can see acorns on the trees. I can see the leaves changing colour. And it's a beautiful season. But there's another word that we often hear at this time of year, and I wonder if you've heard of it before. I'm going to show you what it is. You can read it with me. Here it is. It's the word harvest. Have you heard of that word? Do you know what it means? Well, I'm going to tell you a bit more about harvest. Harvest is a time when farmers bring in crops. Now, there's not many farms around here in Ruislip, but we all know that somehow the food ends up in our tummies, from our dinner plate, from the supermarket. Somewhere along the line, someone has to grow it. In a moment, I'm going to read you a story from the Bible, a story about a farmer. But before I do that, I want to look at the word harvest and see how clever you are, whether you can work out any other words. Here we are. Here's the word harvest. Have a look. Have a closer look. Can you see any other words? Can you move the letters around or maybe pick some letters out? I'd like you to see if you can make a 4-letter word beginning with the E, with the E. Have you thought of one? I'm going to write one down for you. Did you think of this word? The word eats. So eats. Do you have a favourite food? I love nectarines. I love it at this time of year when there's been lots of nectarines to eat and they're juicy and sweet and really tasty. I wonder what your favourite food is. Okay, should we go for another word? Have a look. Here's the word harvest again. This time, can you make me a 4-letter word beginning with the letter H, the H? Have a think. I'm going to write it down myself, the word I'm thinking of. Do you want to have a look? There we are, the word have. Now, you may have had breakfast today, you may not have had breakfast. But at this time of year, harvest is a time when we celebrate that we do have things, but also a time when we think of people that don't have things. And that's why we may give donations to maybe a food bank or another charity, so people who don't have food to eat can have something on their table. Do you want to find a different word this time? Okay, so take another look. Here's the word harvest. Have a close look. This time, can you make me a 5-letter word beginning with the letter E, with that E? So I'm going to write it down to see if you come up with the same word as me. Here's a word, do you know what that says? It's the word earth. Our food, the food that we eat every day, may grow in the earth, in the ground. There's a picture here that I took earlier today of some things that I've been growing this year, some potatoes, and I can dig them up and we can have them for dinner, obviously without the mud on. So we're going to have a look at some other words in a minute, but first of all I'm going to tell you a story. It's a story from the Bible about a farmer. A crowd of people were listening to Jesus. A man came up to him and said to Jesus, "Teacher, tell my brother that he must share everything with me." Jesus replied, "Who made me, the man, to judge whether or not you should share with your brother? You need to watch out and be on your guard for being greedy. Life isn't just about having lots of things." He went on and told them this parable. There was a certain farmer. He was very rich. He had all sorts of things to grow and animals too. But he thought to himself, "What shall I do? My barn is full. I have no place to store my crops." Then he said, "This is what I'll do. I'll tear down my barns and build bigger ones, and there I will be able to store even more grain. And I'll say to myself, you have plenty of grain laid up for many years." So he did. He knocked down his barn and he built a new one. The farmer looked around and he looked at his animals and he looked at his fields and he thought, "I could build an even bigger barn, a better barn, a more beautiful barn, with windows and doors and places to store up my grain that will keep me happy for many, many years. Life will be easy. I can eat what I want, drink what I want, and be as happy as I want." So he did. He knocked down his barn and he built an even bigger barn, an even better barn, an even more beautiful barn. And he was able to think about how he was going to enjoy it. That night, God said, "You're a fool. You've been silly. This very night of your life, you will die. And then who will get all that you have grown for yourself?" Jesus turned back to the crowd and said to them, "By storing up riches for himself, the man forgot all about the really important things in life." So what do you think of the man in that story? Did it surprise you the way he acted? Did it surprise you how the story ended? He was a greedy man, a selfish man. And there's another word I'm going to write down for you now that can also be found in the word harvest. This one begins with a sh, S and an H. Can you see it? The word share. Did the man in the story share? No, he didn't. He kept everything to himself. He didn't share at all. I'm going to do one more word. Let me just clean my board. Write this one down. This one gets to use another letter. This time we have got a 6-letter word from the word harvest. Any guesses? It begins with an S, it begins with an S, a st sound. Here's the word. The word starve. If you don't eat, you get very hungry. And people who don't have to eat anything end up starving. And there are many people in our country and in our world who are very hungry, who don't have food and may starve without anything to eat. I want you to close your eyes for a moment now and think about the words that were in today's story. These words said, "By storing up riches for himself, he forgot about all the really important things in life." Now I'm going to say a prayer, and if you want to make it your prayer, you can say Amen at the end after me. Dear God, please help us to know what is really important in life and what isn't, and help us not to be greedy like the farmer, but to share with others what we have. Amen. Well, I hope you've enjoyed watching. I hope you're able to think about sharing. Maybe you can have a look at that word harvest and find some other words that are in it. There are others there too. And if I happen to spot you around Ruislip, you can give me a socially distanced wave or smile. Take care.